Hi everyone. My name is Nomkhosi Xulu-Gama and welcome to my YouTube channel and also from my pad. Guys, I'm so happy that I'm on day 3. I'm so happy. I'm happy that I'm actually pushing because it's not easy to commit to posting every day for 5 days. At least it's not easy to me because the first time I'm trying this and yeah. Okay, so it's day 3 of book review week. Yeah, let me just dive into this without wasting time. The book that I have reviewed this time, it's titled Ethnographies of Power, working radical concepts with Gillian Hart. This book has been edited, it's an edited book by Chari, Mark Hunter, and Melanie Samson. It was published in 2022 and it was published by Vets Press. They launched actually this book last year towards the end of the year, and they had invited me to give a talk about the book, and I did. So I thought because of like engage with the book so much, I might as well just write a review. So I did that at the end of the year, and I gave it to a journal. It's not up yet, but hopefully it's gonna be up soon as well. This is the book, Ethnographies of Power, Working Radical Concepts with Gillian Hart, by Chari, Hunter, and Samson, published in 2022 by Vets Press. Is it Vets Press? Yes, Vets Press. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna read the review that I've written about this book. This book does a really important work even beyond Hart's individual, although important publications. It brings together through space-time Hart's material and makes it in conversation not only with each other, but also with the work of the contributors, the authors of the individual chapters. The book opens with a question: what does it mean to work with radical concepts? By radical, the editors do not mean judgmental, but rather that it can explain how reality got to be this way and what might be done to change it. That is in page 5. They provide an answer to this question through examples of what people have done with radical concepts. For example, Raymond Williams' classic Keywords, A Vocabulary of Culture and Society, published originally in 1975 and again in 2015, and Barbara Kassim et al.'s Dictionary of Untranslatable, a philosophical lexicon, published in 2014. Differently to what the two above mentioned books do with the concepts, the radical concepts that the book works with are those which are directed at advancing the social justice cause. Gillian Hart is a professor emerita at the University of California, Berkeley in the United States, and a distinguished professor at the University of Witwatersrand, South Africa. Hart is an internationally recognized key thinker across the fields of human geography, African studies, political economy, and development studies. She has also been a powerful and a passionate teacher who has shaped several generations of radical scholars and activists from Berkeley to Johannesburg, as well as all over the world. That is in page 3. The sentiments that we are able to pick up from reading the book are these unorthodox relations that Hart has with her formal, informal, and in between students who are in the process become her comrades in the struggle for social justice in the world. These relations and concepts should be understood in light of the inseparability of theory and practice, as praxis is central to critical ethnographies. Critical ethnographies does not confine itself in the locality. It is always in relation and connected to other places. It allows a process whereby the researchers can generate and revise concepts. It does not prescribe fixed categories, but acknowledges the changing world. Hence, it recognizes that working toward social change is an evolving process. This book honors Hart's contribution to scholarship, which has not only been researching and writing, but also starting conversations, challenging the status quo, establishing relationships, and building a cluster of scholars from around the world who are critical thinkers, who are also committed to translating, transporting, and transforming these radical concepts as they make sense and make meaning of them. What makes this book fundamental and timely in the social sciences is that it engages with Hart's conceptual, theoretical, and analytical tools while she is still alive. She is able to appreciate the work, respond to it, or critique it in any way that she sees relevant. The production of this book can be seen as a collective and collaborative thinking, reading, and writing process from individuals based in different time-spaced but interconnected by working through the radical concepts by Gillian Hart. The writing and reading of this book should be understood as a live process, allowing the continuous conversations on these concepts and issues to unfold in the different parts of the world, as is evident through varying research studies that are presented in the book. The way the chapters are structured are in itself interesting. Each chapter begins with introducing the chosen concepts from Hart's published work, tracing it back to where Hart started, using it to see how it has evolved in her work through the changing times and spaces. Then each author continues to unpack the concepts through sharing their ongoing research by not only applying but also critically engaging with Hart's work. Hart's work does not provide a model to follow. Rather, she shows us that the philosophy of praxis looks like. Rather, she shows us what the philosophy of praxis looks like in practice. That is in page 105. The editors further the criticism of the impact model from the big to the small, the master to the student, by taking ownership of the concepts, allowing the critical ethnographies to facilitate a process whereby they can revise and generate new concepts in their own right, time and space. The method of engagement is offered as a form of epistemic decolonization. The book acknowledges some of Hart's key influences, for example, from Henry Lefebvre's theory of production of space, Antonio Gramsci's praxis, Doreen Mess's space and place as constituted out of social relations stretching beyond boundaries, Karl Marx's conception of dialectics, and Stuart Hall's articulation. The book demonstrates that Hart has not been blind to some of the limitation of the work of people who influenced her. Instead, as she traveled to and from Southeast Asia to Southern Africa and America, she has been developing and revising these radical concepts, always using local context critically. In this book, Bridget Kenny challenges us to reread Hart's earlier work between 1986 and 1997 in order to see that this longer trajectory offers a conjunctural analysis of capitalism. Kenny unpacks gendered labor within multiple sets of relations in time and space, page 26, to depict South African labor relations as sites of politics. Following this, Chari shows the intertwinement of land, labor, and credit as interlocking transactions in Hart's work in the Southeast Asia, which is mirrored with her later work around land, labor, and livelihoods in South Africa. Hart later clearly draws similarities and interconnections between these racialized capitalist places filled with power-laden, gender-based class practices resulting in micro-foundations for exclusions. In the third chapter, McHunter, through relational comparison of a number of schools and residential areas in Durban, shows how race, class, and other social relations are mutually constituted. His study shows that categories of difference are never static but are always changing uncontested. He further argues, unlike how many people refer to legacy of apartheid, racial hierarchies are actively produced in relation to class, gender, and struggles of a space. In her chapter, Jennifer Devine uses the concepts and method of multiple trajectories of globalization to explain how they are driving deforestation in Guatemala's protected areas by identifying systemic drivers of environmental degradation. She highlights the contradictions and tensions, taking nothing for granted but deneutralizing pathologizing discourses like reverse ungovernability and the impact model of globalization. Ahmad Varavia chose Thabo Mbeki's conception of the second economy and Hart's critical engagement with it. He posits that this was an indirect confession of post-apartheid as a state which failed to provide the majority with citizenship rights. This statement was made in the time of mushrooming of social movements in the country protesting for key municipal services. The concept of the second economy is a subject that must be redefined as indigent and drawn into the state's structures of social security on tightly disciplined and conditional terms. That is quoted in one of Hart's work. Jennifer Greenberg uses the concept method development, one with the big D, to define development as the multiple scale project of intervention in the third world that emerged in the context of decolonization struggles and the Cold War. The little d development refers to the development of capitalism as a geographically uneven but spatially interconnected with discourses and practices of development with a big D. Greenberg uses military training as a site in which military meanings are produced through situated practices that are both material and meaningful. Michael Eckers, Stefan Kuiper, and Alex Loftus engage with Hart's discussions of articulation, translation, and populism being influenced by Marx and Gramsci, in turn putting into practice what Hart calls Marxist post-colonial geographies. Zachary Levinson uses the concepts of articulation in the context of his research on land occupations in South Africa, tracing it from Louis Althusser to Gramsci to Hart and its double meaning, which is joining together and giving expression to. Staying within the South African context, Melanie Samson grapples with nationalism, which Hart discusses initially as part of the political interest rather than a theoretical interest. Samson conducted research at a landfill in Soweto and found herself focusing more on nationalism based on the relationship between South African and Zimbabwean reclaimers beyond her initial focus on race, class, and gender. In my own research, I've used Hart's conceptual tools in the former single-sex workers' hostels and in higher education space. I have found the relational comparison concept useful in rejecting pre-given bounded units or cases. Hart argues that the focus of relational comparison is on how key processes are constituted in relation to one another through power-laden practices in the multiple interconnected arenas of everyday life. The intertwinement of politics with theory as well as concept with method is evident in her adoption of praxis as a key conceptual tool. She has insisted on the importance of politics as an active and transformative force in the production of time-space without elevating politics to an ontology unfazed by inherited limit-setting forces of history and geography. Page 163. This book is proof that what Hart has offered to us in the scholarship and beyond are sets of conceptual, theoretical, and analytical tools which are fundamental to use in trying to understand why things are how they are and what can be done to bring social change. Without the different studies by the authors, this book would have seemed repetitive because Hart's analytical concepts are not easily separated from one another because they form an interconnected web of analytical categories that define one another in mutually constituting ways. This book is an open call for scholars and activists in Marxist post-colonial geographies and beyond to engage with this method, which is one form of epistemic decolonization. The final point is that this book could have been enhanced with Gillian Hart's reflection as a postscript to the book. Thank you very much. I will end it here.